Hello everybody and welcome back to Punting Pioneer. I'm Corbin Hosler and this is Heroic in Pioneer. So you may have seen Feather before, right? There's been Feather decks that have existed in Standard and to an extent in Pioneer. But this is a little different. This deck is leaning on Lurrus in the sideboard as your companion at the cost of Feather in the main deck. So what that means is we're going a little more all in on being able to trigger these creatures across the board. So what does that mean? We want to trigger these heroic abilities. That means whenever they become targeted, with a spell, we get a benefit. In this case, a +1 counter. In this case, a +1 counter plus a scry. It's very, very powerful. And then you round that out with aggressive creatures like Monastery Swiftspear with Prowess, Soul-Scar Mage with Prowess, and Dreadhorde Arcanist to cast those spells from your graveyard, some Adanto Vanguards for indestructible, and all of a sudden you have a really aggressive, focused deck that can put on a lot of pressure while protecting its creatures. It's both a proactive and a reactive deck. It's not Boggles per se, but it is sort of a similar approach to playing the game, sort of a Protect the Queen style strategy. And it's really interesting with Lurrus in the sideboard, being able to cast that in game one as your companion, bring back something like a 10th District Legionnaire from your graveyard is very, very powerful. But in case you are attached to Feather, we have it here in the sideboard as well. So what else do we have? Remember, with Lurrus, we want to keep things of a low converted mana cost. So possible Purifying Light for the mono black decks, Deck and Stone for, I would assume, Uro or something like that, wherever you want it. Light of Hope is a nice catch-all here. You can do a lot with it. Wild/4 removal. Now, here's one I'm interested in. Roiling Vortex. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, you deal damage to them. If a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent, they take 5. I have to assume this is targeted at the oops all spells type strategies that go all in on, be it the Zendikar lands, Zendikar Rising lands. So here we go, everybody. I am excited to pilot some Boros Heroic here in Pioneer. Let's jump into the games. Thanks for watching. All right, here we go with Boros Heroic. You can see right away here, sorry, coming in a little late to recording, had a bit of a hiccup there, but we are leaning on a Favored Hoplite. We mulligan to 6, so we can lean on this God's Willing to protect it. Hopefully, anyways. Our opponent, they mulliganed as well. Univault Shadowspear. Alright, that's great. That allows us to really, really get aggressive here, but I think it's correct. I just basically think we don't have anything better. I'm going to Gird for Battle the Hoplite, put 2 counters on it. And just start attacking. You know, I don't know what our opponent's doing with that Shadowspear, but I do know that Trample and Lifelink are probably pretty good against me. So let's hope that we can get a little more success this way. Now, so the thing about God's Willing to keep in mind, not only can it protect our creature from removal, which obviously we would like to do, but it can also give it protection from a color. Now, that said, I really don't actually know how we're going to beat the Shadowspear. It's problematic, I won't lie. We really have to block? And it can gain indestructible? This is so bad for us. I'm attacking. I don't really know actually how we win this one, but see what we can do, I guess. Alright, they just, I mean, the block and discard kind of makes sense on their end. Now, the goal for us is to get somewhere with the Boros Charm giving our creature double strike, basically, right? It would put a counter on our thing and then give it double strike. So, I don't know. I don't feel great about my opponent blocking, soaking the damage here by discarding. I think that probably works out just fine for them. But blocking is not very good for us either, because they can just give it indestructible. You know, I don't know how we're going to win, but we're going to have to go for a little bit here. Lurrus might be involved, although, I mean, it doesn't do us much good right now. I didn't want to put it in my hand there because I want to keep the God's Willing up for as long as possible. Looks like they might get aggressive here, though. Might want to come in with the Mutavault and the Seasoned Hallowblade. They just want to race. And I think that's probably a pretty good line on their part, given all it takes is one hit from the Shadowspear to really kind of pull them ahead in the race. So not a great spot for us. Our opponent's deck is kind of doing what our deck does, only better. Although in reality, it's basically this one card. That is certainly a draw. That'll help a little bit in this racing department. Can't deal lethal here, but I at least dealt slightly more, I guess, than my opponent's going to gain. Wow, they just drew all 4 Mutavaults, huh? Okay. So we can, our creatures can lose Hexproof and Indestructible from the Shadow Spear, but fortunately cannot lose Protection. Let's see what they do after this, though. I don't mind taking 5 here. Okay. This is a warrior one would... Oh, I see. That's pretty good. Won't lie. Don't think I'll be dealing 19 damage to them. We, I mean, I guess we have a block. Might as well put Lurrus into our hand. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the hope is to just try to, you know, work our way through their cards that they can discard to the Hallowed Blade. Get the Hoplite big enough that it doesn't really care. I mean, there are some paths here, I think. Especially if our opponent gets aggressive, right? The God's Willing, the Swiftspear can put in a block on a Mutavault. I mean, this game is not in a great position for us, but... we got comboed by this, that's for sure. The instant speed, I mean, it's I mean, this is like kind of a modern playable effect. The equipment is not quite as powerful as, say, a Colossus Hammer, but it's still pretty good. All right, they're just going for it here. Guess we'll give our Hoplite protection from white. It also allows us to scry. Okay. Also keeps them from gaining life in this circumstance. So in theory, we're taking 2 here, but it says trample. Gosh, that's good. But it's not big enough. So okay, things I think might work out okay for us here. A Dreadhorde Arcanist on top. I'd get a Gird for battle back years from now. Might actually be fine, though. I don't really know what I'm looking for, but it's not the end of the world. Especially given the Lurrus can then get the Dreadhorde back after it suicides. What is this? Okay. Prevent all damage, I guess? I don't really know what just happened there. But whatever, I guess. Sure. Alright, so I can go Lurrus and hold up the Boros Charm if we want. I mean, the Boros Charm's starting to get kind of scary on the Hoplite, right? It would make it a 5, 10, 12, 13. I think I have 13 damage right now. So, we're on the way, right? I can see a path forward here. I'm going to go... I'm just going to play out my creatures. So I'm going to play out the Arcanist here. Also going to play the Lurrus. And let's see what I get in here with. I guess just the Swiftspear. We have reasonable blocks. Our opponent only has 1 card in hand. And in theory, we have the Shadow Spirit up Seasoned Hallowed Blade, as powerful a combo as that is, and it is very good. We might actually have it covered thanks to our very large Favored Hoplite here if our opponent can't find removal. 4 Mutavaults, so I understood the aggressive line from them, but they have 1 card in hand. They need it to be very good, otherwise we're going to start getting some value here. Yeah. The problem with this line is I just take 2. I just go to 3. I think we're getting lightning bolted out. And more certainly not before I, oops. Certainly won't be lightning bolted out before I get the opportunity to attack with Lurrus anyway. Which, don't forget, everybody, has lifelink. Alright, so our opponent pitches a card to keep their Seasoned Hallowblade alive. They get us down to 3, but I think this is where we say corner turned and start to see what we can do here. So, what do we want to do? Can I win? Can I deal 22? If I Boros Charm to give the Hoplite double strike, the Hoplite gets in for 10. The Swiftspear is 12. 13. 16. Then when the Hoplite attacks, it triggers the Gird for battle. That gets to 18 from the Gird. The additional trigger here gets to 19. The additional trigger here gets to 20. So I think I can only deal 20 if I did that math right, and I don't really care to do it again. So we're going to have to play, I guess, a little more defensively, but I mean, really, this is going to be fine regardless. Alright, we will bring back the Gird for battle. Alright, I would like to cast a card. I actually want to put, this is kind of cute. Look, I can put the other counter on my, I like this, on my Dreadhorde Arcanist, so that next turn I can bring back a 2 CMC spell, because its power will be 2. For instance, like a Boros Charm. I don't think I get punished here, because I still get to go up to 6 from the Lurrus. I have 2 blockers. I mean, the alternative was putting the counter on the Lurrus to go up to 7. But I think I'm fine, right? Because I can still beat a Lightning Bolt even. I block a Mutavault, I block a Hallowed Blade, I go down to 4. I still only get bolted down to 1. And obviously they don't have, you know, the card Lightning Bolt, but I'm just trying to figure out what we could lose to, right? You know, skewer the critics or whatnot. Doesn't seem like they have that. I also don't lose to another Resolute Strike, so I think this means next turn we get a swing for lethal. I even get to use the Prowess on my Soul-Scar Mage here, along with a Boros Charm, I believe. Because I'll get to cast a Boros Charm from my graveyard. Yeah, this game took a while, but I believe we got there. Alright, deal 4 to our opponent. This was quite the first game. I honestly thought we were in trouble. I didn't know that we were going to be able to get there. But fortunately, our opponent just could not find answer to our favorite Hoplite, and in the end, we had the biggest creature around to take down game 1. I don't know what the Boros sideboard mirror looks like. I guess we'll find out. Now, our decks are clearly not exactly the same. Our opponent is basically playing red-white warriors. And leaning on some equipment synergy here. So that's a different, obviously a different take on the deck approach than we have with our red-white deck, where we're really leaning on trying to go unfair, build big creatures that dominate combat, cheat spells out of our graveyard. A slightly different focus. So I think these games are probably going to play out, you know, pretty much exactly like that. If our opponent is able to get out bigger with an equipment, we're going to be behind. But if we're able to get a heroic creature bigger, they'll be behind. I think that's probably how this goes. So we'll take game 1 and see what kind of removal we come up with for game 2 here. And would this be a match where we want would we want Feather over Lurrus? You know, it could be, as a matter of fact, because this seems like a match where our opponent, I think I want these Deccan Stones, Wild Slash. About this. Does not destroy artifacts. No, but I think looping, you know, the Reckless Rages for with Feather out is probably better than having access to Lurrus in this particular matchup. I don't think the Adanto Vanguard is great here. It's probably one of the worst. We'll make some easy cuts. and figure out what we want to do. Yeah. I guess we'll give something like this a try. I like this, being able to sideboard in and out of Feather. I especially like that you don't have it in game one, so your opponent, you know, the answers are a little different, but Feather kind of, you know, 4 toughness, 3 CMC, and there are cards in the format that make it a little more difficult to deal with it, as opposed to dealing with your board of 1/2s, right? Sweepers have an entirely different prospect against the 2 different parts of your deck, so this looks like a keep to me. A nice aggro hand backed up by removal. I'm in. Absolutely. Oh, and there you go. Our opponent does have the hammer. They're trying to make it work in Pioneer here. Well, okay. You saw in game 1, as a matter of fact, if they'd had a hammer instead of a Shadow Spear, we would have been pretty dead, huh? In this case, basically, I think we hope that they don't just have it immediately, and we can hold up... I guess technically we could like Reckless Rage our Swiftspear. Yeah, it works. Yeah, because the Swiftspear will go to 3 toughness with the prowess trigger, then take 2. That would in fact work. I can exile this. Also nice. All right. Well, decisions. I think step 1. I think we. Gosh, it is so dangerous to let them to not leave up the Reckless Rage here, though, isn't it? You know what? If worst case scenario, I guess I'd take 13, and we go from there. So I'm going to play the Dreadhorde Arcanist. I think I have to play to win, not play to not lose at this point of the game. This is, like we said, whoever goes bigger goes bigger. And my reasoning here is that with the Dreadhorde Arcanist out, even if they do put the hammer on the Seasoned Hallowblade and hit us for $1 billion, we're not dead, and then we can Declaration and stone away the creature, and I hope that that's good enough. We can even attack with the Arcanist and Reckless Rage, anything after that. So we'll see. Our opponent has Mutavaults, and, okay. This is perfectly fine. Given my hand, this doesn't seem like a game that we lose to a Shadow Spear hit, right? It seems like we lose to a Colossus Hammer. I sure would have liked to have hit a land, but this is still pretty good, right? We get to put a lot of counters on things, a lot of triggers on the stack here. We're going to be swinging for a lot by the time it's all said and done. And then if our opponent tries to put the hammer on this thing, we can Reckless Rage it. And this is quite the powerful Dreadhorde Arcanist, by the way, too, now. It can now officially cast anything in our deck from our graveyard, right? So, pretty good stuff here. It also has $1 billion toughness, so we can safely Reckless Rage it. Now, the thing is, the only way to actually truly be safe about this silly hammer play is to try to go for this at the beginning of combat. Or in response to this Selfless Savior, I guess. We need to keep that thing from attacking. Because to make it indestructible, it has to tap. They have their own God's Willing. Okay. Fortunately, I can still Declaration and stone this this Seasoned Hallowblade. Well, I guess we still take 4 in this scenario, but I mean, honestly, again, not the end of the world. I can flashback the Reckless Rage to hit the Selfless Savior after I deck and stone the Hallowed Blade. I think this game might just be over in our favor. Our opponent has no colored mana open, so no white mana for another God's Willing or anything like that. I have to say this looks pretty good. They will be able to crack the clue, unfortunately, but that's all right. Now, the other thing, I guess, to look at here is, do we have lethal? Maybe. This is the kind of thing where maybe I could Gird for battle. That would give me 6. I'd go from 6 to 8 with the prowess. I'd go to 9. I then cast it again. The prowess goes to 10. I get 2 more counters. That's 12, so not lethal. Although quite a bit. I could also Titan Strength. My opponent has another blocker with Immunivault. So I think we stick to the original plan here of attacking with... Actually, I'm going to deck in Stone first to get the trigger. And then we can safely Reckless Rage down the Selfless Savior here. So I guess our opponent can put... I mean, we can still lose to... You know, the Mutavault's every creature type. That means it's a warrior for the Resolute Strike. We would still lose to them using that to put a hammer on. There's nothing we can do about that, I guess. So, we'll do what we can do, which is attack. This is pretty interesting. I have to say my opponent's deck feels like a more fun version of ours. Probably not as good, but probably more fun. Instant speed Colossus Hammers sounds pretty cool. But you can see, though, I mean, our deck, we're a Lurrus deck for a reason. The point is, look, we're stuck on 2 lands, and we are just doing everything we want anyway. I mean, frankly, Dreadhorde Arcanist has made 2 free mana worth of spells already. It's what this card does. It is so powerful. That's why it's a Legacy player. Or at least it was. I don't know. In 2021, what Legacy looks like. But let's hope there's not a Resolute Strike in our future. We'll be heading to game 3. Alright, just a natural. Put the Shadow Spear on the Mutavault. Swing us down to 7. That's not going to be good enough, though, even though it'll put them back up to 12. But Titan Strength is a heck of a Magic card, isn't it? +3/+1. The Scry. The Prowess trigger. But really, the flashback with the Dreadhorde Arcanist. This is just going to be an easy lethal. I gotta say, that was quite the match. Our opponent's deck is a pretty neatly designed piece of work, I gotta say. It was kind of beautiful. Unfortunately for them, it didn't quite work out. They didn't get to live the dream against us, but it was a fun match nonetheless. So, there we go. Picking up a Feather win in game 2, although no Feather showed. And Boros Heroic, everybody, taking down match 1 here. All right, here we go. We're going to start this one on the draw, it looks like. But it looks like a pretty good hand to me. I mean, I guess we know, right, that not all the opening hands look this good, but this is a nice one. We're sort of priced into the at least unless we draw a white source on tap on turn 1 here, not the ideal order. We'd rather go Hoplite into Swiftspear a lot more than we want to go Swiftspear into Hoplite. But hey, you take what you can get, and your opponent, our opponent mulliganed. That's a nice start for us as well. But hey, sometimes you ask and you shall receive. That's much better for us. So now we're going to get to attack on turn 2. We're going to be able to Defiant Strike the Hoplite, trigger a bunch of stuff, get in for, what is that going to be, like 5 damage or something on turn 2? Not bad. And then the turn after that, if we want it, we'll have the 10th District Legionnaire. Oh, wow. Now we're really going to do some damage. I'm going to go for the Gird for battle because why not? I mean, look at this. Look at all of the power we have on turn 2. Now, they do have the Fatal Push. Who cares? Fine. The fun police over there. But we still get attacked for 3. And we still have a follow-up. We still have a 10th District Legionnaire plus a Defiant Strike and then a leftover Boros Charm. So the pressure is still going to be on. Now, our opponent can start some Uro shenanigans at any point now, but that's always going to be true. Not much I can do about that. But at least we can do this. Look, the triggers just never stop coming. Another 10th District Legionnaire. Don't mind if I do. Swing for 8. So now, excuse me, next turn, we have another 10th District Legionnaire hitting the field with another Defiant Strike. The Defiant. We still have another spell we can cast with the Defiant Strike, although our opponent's going to Thoughtseize us now, go down to 7. Yeah, they take the Defiant Strike because it's a trigger, but the Boros Charm deals 4 right to your face. If you don't take the Boros Charm, you're down to a virtual 3 just from the Thoughtseize and the Charm. So, tough choice all around here, I'd say. I think they probably are supposed to take the Boros Charm, then play like an Uro, be at 10. Even then, it's just so bad for them, right? Tough spot. Even being on the play, even having the removal, at least at the moment, it's looking like we might be able to clutch this one out the last couple of turns, but we'll see. Chump blocking Jace, if I've ever seen one. Yeah, okay. So that was just to get an additional one into the graveyard. It's a nice play on their part, actually. So just taking advantage of the legend rule, put the new one, summoning sick one into the graveyard. Then when you activate the Jace, you can transform it to bring back a Fatal Push for my other 10th District Legionnaire. So unfortunately for them, they did not know that we had another one, and therefore have everything we need. Believe this is still 8 damage here. It is. That was a fast one. On to game 2. Wow, that was something, wasn't it? What do we have against a deck like that, huh? Lurrus seems pretty good against a bunch of Fatal Pushes. I don't hate the Apostles of Purifying Light. I'm not going to lie. I don't hate them. Here's why. Well, these Reckless Rages are probably, like, pretty bad. I don't really know what we want over them, though. Outside of, you know, this. Is this good? I don't think this is... Yeah, this is fine. I don't think they have enchantments, though. Just Soul Tie value. Is this good? I don't think this is good. Okay, well, I guess, heck, we'll just run all these Apostles of Purifying Light. So, I'm sure our opponent had Uro floating around in there. We can exile the Uros from the graveyard, or exile the graveyards from the Uros so that they can't escape it. But also protection from black could be relevant against a bunch of Fatal Pushes and so on. So, and either way, the Reckless Rages weren't doing much for us. Also, more creatures, and especially creatures that are in any way resilient, is probably the kind of thing you want against a deck like this that we're playing against. Well, this is a keep. I don't love it in the sense that it's not as powerful as that last hand, which ran over our opponent despite multiple pieces of interaction on their part. But this isn't all bad. Now, this was the worst case scenario where our opponent Thoughtseizes away our Swiftspear and drastically slows us down, but this is why I like our deck being a little more creature heavy in this sideboarded game. And we don't really get to start this party off for a little while, but Adanto Vanguard is a very, very nice one to have against any deck packing Fatal Push type shenanigans. I say that. Well, that is why we're glad to have these extra creatures, because our opponent is now going to Thoughtseize away that Adanto Vanguard, if I were to guess. But fortunately, we'll still have the Apostle of Purifying Light, so we can still get onto the board. Oh, wow, they actually took the Apostle there. That is, I have to say, it is not what I expected. Don't know what it means either, right? That, it means they have Uro, I suppose. If I were to guess, it means they have Uro. Hey, look, an Uro. Yeah, they shouldn't want us to exile their graveyard. Okay, well, I guess that means we got an Adanto Vanguard. Which doesn't matter at the moment. Excuse me. None of these cards are particularly good against Uro. Don't have a ton of answers for it once it's escaped. Alright, let's see what the play on 5 is. It's a Nissa. It's always a Nissa. It's at least the... Gosh, it doesn't even become a green creature. It's still just a colorless creature, so my God's Willing doesn't get my Adanto Vanguard through. We just got steamrolled in this one, didn't we? Well, this gives the Reckless Rage something to do. That's disgusting. What just happened there? That was gross. My opponent has that Uro all lined up. Alright, I realize I want these declarations in stone. How about that? The other cut. Probably still a Reckless Rage, I think. Well, now we at least have some more Uro answers. But yeah, we just got, I mean, double Thoughtseize into Uro is pretty oppressive. Double Thoughtseize into Uro. I mean, that was turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Thoughtseize, turn 3 Uro, turn 4 Nissa. I don't think anyone's ever beaten that in any format. I'll keep this hand, though. A bit painful with the Battlefield Forge, but well worth it. This is a nice opener. Oh, wow. That was almost the most unfortunate of misclicks. I know I'm prone to some misclicks on Magic Online, but that one would have felt pretty bad. I won't lie. All right, there's the Thoughtseize. Let's see what they care about. Is it the 10th District Legionnaire this time, or is it the Apostle Purifying Light? The issue is, you know, even against an Uro, we have a really nice aggro hand if they take the Apostle. And, you know, if they take the 10th District Legionnaire, which makes the most sense. Wow. I was going to say, then we have an answer to Uro. Instead, they go for door number 3 and get rid of the Gird for battle to prevent me from having just an absurd turn here. I'm going to hold the Angel for just a second. Or, I'm sorry, the Apostle, in case Uro comes around. But I guess... Alright, Triumph. Well, I get to keep the Reckless Rage open. I was hoping maybe we could draw another creature or something. I could save the Apostle until we had the mana to activate it as well. But this is still okay. If our opponent plays a creature, we can 10th District Legionnaire with the Reckless Rage. So, and here we go. It's an Uro, but it's an Uro with no value here, right? They can't escape it. I say no value. It's Uro is nothing but value, but our Apostle is going to stick around. We can actually get rid of the thing. And land there is not too bad because it means I can exile this dumb thing and still keep open a Boros Charm. Nissa is the biggest problem, but again, the Reckless Rage that I don't think our opponent knows we have would actually be very, very good against it. Instead, it's a Traverse just for a basic land. Wow. Wow. That is rough. That's rough. Extinction Event. We have 2/2 drops. They're going to get exiled to the Extinction Event. Ooh, that hurt. That beats Indestructible pretty well. You know, I almost considered Reckless Raging on that Uro just to get a trigger off. So we'd scry, because now we have a hand that does nothing. And the Boros Charm, as powerful as it is, does nothing right now. And the value train begins. This one might be going off the rails. Extinction Event is sort of uniquely powerful. Nice stuff. But if we draw a land, we can get rid of the Courser before things get too devastating. Woo, we did. That's a big draw. Big draw right there. So we can at least attempt to do this now. And in theory, this will work too, right? Look, I can actually, God's willing, this Fatal Push. Give our creature pro white. Okay, well. I actually could be the second Fatal Push with an additional mana, but look at that. This, oh my gosh. Double Fatal Push in response to our Reckless Rage, which, by the way, still got them because it still had a target. Don't know if they realized that. And the way spells work is if there's one target for a spell and it no longer has a legal target as it tries to resolve, it'll fizzle. Won't happen. The most famous example is somebody choosing tap all creatures target player controls and draw a card with Cryptic Command. If you were to make yourself hexproof in response to that, that spell then no longer had any legal targets when it had a target to begin with, and it would fizzle. But in this case, the Reckless Rage had two targets at the beginning, my creature and theirs. However, when it resolved, there was only one creature left, but as long as a spell still has at least one legal target, it will resolve as much as it can. All of that said, this Tamiyo is pretty killer for us. Because as you might guess, Tamiyo, not only does it, find them good cards, but also puts cards into their graveyard like, say, Uro. So, nothing too devastating yet. They named a Murderous Rider. I don't think they hit it. Hard to parse that exactly here, but... Alright, we need a creature. That wasn't it. Alright, well, we can get the Lurrus into our hand and go from there. Unfortunately, here comes the Uro train. That said, well, it all depends on the cards they get off of it, I think. I don't think we were ever beating this, but... Yep. Uro claims another victim, but in this case, it was actually the Tamiyo that was just really, really good for them. But let's see what we can do here. We'll play a Lurrus. And I guess I'll play a Soul-Scar Mage. Gosh, they just really had it all here, didn't they? The Abrupt Decay for the Lurrus. Okay, Lurrus down, I guess. So now it's Soul-Scar Mage versus the world, huh? The world as represented by Uro. Alright, I think I've seen enough here. Yep, alright, good game. We got by Uro. I don't know if that card will be around all of 2021, but I had enough of it in 2020. I'll say that. So let's hope we don't run into much more of that. But unfortunately, we couldn't pick up that one. It was a good match, though. You saw the kind of hand that got there in game one, and it was fun all around. So let's see if we can pick up a win here in our third and final match. All right, well, we get to be on the play this time, and this is a keeper. This is an incredible hand to think about, right? To think that this is a keep. And honestly, it wasn't that hard of a decision to keep it, frankly. Now, there's not very many lands in our deck, I'll grant you that. But the double Favored Hoplite, I mean, there's only 2 cards we can't play in our hand, and we're 1 land away from playing everything. Double Favored Hoplite into Gird for battle. These things are going to be huge. And we have a Reckless Rage to deal with whatever our opponent is got going on later. So, now, the bad news is how slow this is, right? Obviously, this hand would have been much more powerful if we hit a land. We did not. But it's still, hey, it is what it is. Successfully bluffed in our 1 point of damage. Land? Well, the beatdown begins here. Trying to make these some very big hoplites, and we succeeded. Imagine we get to do that, imagine we get to be 1 man ahead here, and this game's basically unlosable. It raised the alarm. Okay, 3 creatures, but you actually don't have enough power to even take out 1 hoplite. So you're just taking 6. Okay. I'm a little worried what raise the alarm means, right? Our opponent's got a lot of small white creatures going on this far. Something tells me there might be pump effects in the future. But instead, they probably digging for land there. Crack the clue and find it. But okay. That wasn't so bad for us. Land. Alright, also not a land. However, we could Defiant Strike one. And why wouldn't I? See if we can find a land. Alright, we did it. That's actually huge because it unlocks the, now the Reckless, our opponent's just down to 3, by the way, but it unlocks the Reckless Rages in our hand. We could have gone to 1, I think, with the Titan Strength. Right, because it would have added 2 more than the Defiant Strike did. So not lethal. It's a lot of tokens. Now all I have to do is untap, though, right? As long as we don't lose, The Boros Charm to the face is lethal, no matter how many blockers they have. They're convoking something, though. Alright, Venerated Loxodon. So it's just actually red-white tokens. Okay. You know what? It's a good thing we got that hit in. If our opponent had chump block a little more aggressively, we wouldn't have been able to win this one, even with that God's Willing, because they have red and white creatures to block with. But Boros Charm will go right upstairs. Won't worry about that at all, and on to game number 2. So, alright, well, that was interesting. Red-white tokens, huh? Declaration in Stone seems pretty good against tokens. Honestly, seems like a match where the Feather's better than the Lurrus as well. What don't we need? I like all the removal. I mean, maybe the Defiant Strike's the worst. I'm not sure. I'm kind of unsure what to cut, actually. Because we want so many different things in the matchup. At the same time, I don't want to make all of my heroic creatures bad, you know? Excuse me. I'm going to cut an Arcanist. I have no idea if that's just the worst idea ever. But if our opponent is going to put 3 power into play, you know, by playing out a bunch of tokens, then having a 1/3 that on the draw, you know, may not work out really the way we want it to. On the play, absolutely. On the draw, I think, you know, that's why we ship it. So now we have some choices, though. We do have the benefit of seeing what our first draw step is to figure out what we want to do. But I can go Retreat Vantage if I want to turn to Arcanist, or if I wanted to, you know, do something a little different, like say Vantage Swiftspear, we can do that. And I am going to do this because, one, I like the idea of attacking our opponent as soon as possible. But two, even if we put the Clifftop into play tap next turn, we still have the Wild Slash for whatever our opponent plays here. In this case, it's the Legion's Landing. I don't even care that much. Although lifelink on these tokens is fairly annoying, but it is what it is. Alright, well, another option is the Reckless Rage. Wild Slash this thing. We have lots of reasons to do this. Obviously the prowess trigger is huge. They're not blocking with it, but more importantly, I mean, it's fine to. It feels bad always to use a real spell, right? A burn spell on a token, but in this case, we essentially traded it for the Legion's Landing, the front half of it, and as long as we can keep it from transforming, then this isn't so bad for us. And as it turns out, removing the creature and answering the front half of it helps answer the back half. So now everything looks much, much better for us. Play out an Arcanist. And I think just go for the Gird for battle here. Wow, and it just works too. We get the prowess trigger no matter what happens there. And you know, and I didn't really expect to untap with this Arcanist. If we untap with the Arcanist, we probably just win, right? We get a Gird for battle, both of these creatures again. Oh no. Well, here goes. It's Winota. One trigger though. It can't be that bad, right? It actually wasn't. It was just a Thraben Inspector. A Thraben Inspector, which, by the way, we can kill. But I can just also kill this Vampire. And now, coming in clutch is the Reckless Rage, getting rid of Winota. Also, I think we might just win. Yep, good enough. I was going to say, all we had to do there was Gird for battle. Then that makes 5 with that. Plus, that'd be 8. Although we weren't going to win. But this game was very nearly over regardless. There you go, everybody. That is how you do it with Heroic. Naya Winota, or in this case, I guess, Mardu Night Winota, no shot against our Heroic deck that got out in front. Reckless Rage is such an overlooked card outside of this archetype. But, man, I'll tell you, it is powerful. Especially with the Monastery Swiftspear. It's great. Well, there you go, everybody. What would I change about this deck? Probably nothing. I think it's, you know, it's still it's a heroic deck. You can swap out your Gird for battles for something else. You can opt for some removal, but frankly, you probably want to do what we did, which is just attack, attack, attack. So everybody, that's the deck. I'm Corbin Hosler. This is Punting Pioneer. Thank you so much for watching, as always, here on Cool Stuff. And here is to a great 2021 for myself, for all of you watching, for the website here, for the YouTube channel, for the series. Let's have a great year together. See you next week.